My friends, there are certain wounds that cut deeper than flesh, deeper than scars, and deeper than time. They are not carved on the body, but etched into the soul. When these wounds come from the people we brought into this world, the people we sacrificed for, loved, and nurtured, the pain is unlike any other. There is something profoundly sacred about the bond between parent and child. It is built on trust, respect, and a kind of love that is supposed to withstand every storm. But when children wound their parents in ways that pierce the heart, it leaves a mark that is not easily forgotten and often not forgiven. Disrespect is not just about words spoken in anger. It is about tone, about gestures, about the subtle ways children can strip away the honor and dignity of the very people who gave them life. When a child raises their voice, rolls their eyes, dismisses advice, or mocks the wisdom of a parent, it cuts deeper than any stranger's insult ever could. Why? Because disrespect from the outside world can be brushed off, but when it comes from your own child, the one you sacrificed for, it pierces the very core of who you are. For parents, respect is not a demand of power, it is a longing of the heart. Parents do not seek worship or blind obedience. What they seek is acknowledgement of their humanity, gratitude for their sacrifices, and honor for the role they played in shaping their children's lives. When children dismiss that role, treating parents as burdens, relics, or outdated voices, it creates a wound that does not simply heal with time. Disrespect often begins subtly. A sharp tone here, a sarcastic remark there, an impatient sigh when a parent asks a simple question. Over time, these small acts accumulate, sending a message that says your presence is inconvenient, your voice is irrelevant, your worth has expired. Imagine carrying someone for 9 months, feeding them from your body, walking the floor during sleepless nights, working tirelessly to give them opportunities, and then, years later, hearing from that same child, you don't know anything. It is not about control, it is about recognition. Parents want to feel that their sacrifices were not in vain. They want to feel seen, honored, and remembered. Disrespect denies them that. It diminishes their story. It erases their worth. And the truth is, words of disrespect never disappear into the air. They echo, they linger, they replay in the minds of parents at night, in moments of silence, in times of loneliness. Even if a child forgets what they said, the parent remembers. Because words are not just sounds, they are seeds. And when those seeds are poisoned, they grow into bitterness, sorrow, and wounds that may never fully close. This wound is never forgotten because it attacks the very essence of parenthood, the longing to be honored by the one you gave everything for. And it is rarely forgiven because once honor is stripped away, it cannot be fully restored. Few things wound the heart of a parent more than the absence of gratitude. Gratitude is not about gifts or grand gestures. It is about acknowledgement. It is the simple recognition that someone gave of themselves so that you could live, grow, and thrive. When children grow up without expressing this recognition, when they take sacrifices as though they were owed, it leaves a hollow ache in a parent's spirit. Parents rarely count the cost of their giving. They wake in the night to soothe cries. They skip meals so their children can eat. They work jobs they despise to keep food on the table. They put aside their own dreams so their children might reach theirs. And yet, what they hope for in return is not repayment. It is simply a word, a gesture, a sense that the effort mattered. But when children respond with entitlement, complaining about what wasn't given instead of appreciating what was, the parent feels as though their love was invisible. Ingratitude whispers, what you did was not enough. It dismisses the sleepless nights, the worry-filled prayers, the quiet sacrifices that children may never even know about. It replaces appreciation with expectation. And when expectation becomes the norm, love begins to feel like obligation. And that is a heavy burden for any parent to bear. The wound of ingratitude deepens over time. a forgotten thank you here, a failure to visit there, a habit of only calling when money is needed. It all adds up. Each act tells a parent, you were supposed to give, you owed me. And when parents hear this, either spoken directly or implied through actions, it cuts them to their core because they know they gave not from debt, but from love. The cruel irony is that many children only realize the depth of their parents' sacrifices once those parents are gone. They remember the meals, the clothes, the long hours worked, the dreams deferred, but by then their gratitude can no longer be spoken, and the silence is permanent. For the parent, however, the absence of that gratitude in life is a wound that never heals. Ingratitude is unforgettable because it erases the worth of years of selflessness. It is often unforgiven because it asks parents to accept that their deepest sacrifices did not matter to the very people they made them for. That pain is not a momentary sting, it is a lifelong scar. There is no silence heavier than the silence of a child who walks away. Abandonment is not always a dramatic act. Sometimes it comes slowly through fewer phone calls, shorter visits, unanswered messages, or excuses that keep stretching until one day the connection is gone. For a parent, abandonment is not just about being left behind. It is about being left out of the life they helped create. Imagine carrying a child in your arms, nurturing them through sickness, celebrating their first steps, cheering at school performances, and then years later realizing that those arms are now empty, not because the child is gone from the world, but because they have chosen to leave you outside the door of their new life. The pain of abandonment says, you no longer matter, I don't need you anymore. For parents, this is not just rejection, it is erasure. It is as if their years of love and sacrifice are being rewritten as unnecessary, as though their presence was only temporary until the child could stand alone. The cruelest part is that abandonment is rarely about dramatic betrayal. It is about neglect. It is about being forgotten. And to be forgotten by the very person you could never forget is an agony that words can barely capture. Some children justify abandonment with the excuse of being busy or the illusion that independence requires distance. But independence does not mean severing ties. True maturity is not about walking away. It is about carrying the people who carried you. When children cut parents out of their lives, when they are too busy to check in, when they ignore milestones and illnesses, it leaves parents in a silence that grows louder every day. The wound of abandonment is not only emotional, it is physical. Parents feel it in their bones, in the empty chair at the dinner table, in the holidays spent without a visit, in the loneliness of hospital rooms without the comfort of their child's hand. Abandonment is not just about absence, it is about absence that was a choice. And that choice communicates a devastating truth. You are not worth my time. This wound is unforgettable because it attacks the very heart of what it means to be a parent, the longing to remain a part of their child's journey. It is often unforgiven because no amount of later gestures can erase the years when love was replaced by silence. Once a parent has lived through seasons of lying invisible to their own child, the memory lingers like a shadow that cannot be shaken off. Abandonment is not just walking away from a parent, it is leaving them with a lifetime of echoes where love and presence should have been. Betrayal from a child is unlike any other form of betrayal because it comes from the very heart you trusted without condition. Parents spend years building a foundation of trust with their children. They keep secrets safe, they open their homes, they forgive mistakes, and they continue giving even when it costs them dearly. They trust their children, not because it is earned, but because it is love. That is why when betrayal comes, it cuts in ways words cannot describe. Betrayal can take many forms. Sometimes it is financial, a child who uses their parents' sacrifices only to waste them, or who manipulates and deceives for money. Sometimes it is emotional, a child who exposes private family struggles, who mocks their parents' pain, or who turns moments of vulnerability into weapons. And sometimes betrayal is relational, choosing loyalty to outsiders while dishonoring the very people who stood by them since birth. Each form leaves behind a scar that throbs long after the moment has passed. When a child betrays a parent, it is not just an act, it is a message. It says, "Your trust was misplaced, your love was naive, your heart was foolish for believing in me." And that realization is devastating. For parents, trust is not a luxury. It is the heartbeat of their relationship with their child. Once that trust is broken, the very ground beneath them feels unstable. The wound of betrayal deepens because parents rarely see it coming. They often excuse small behaviors, believing their child could never turn against them. They lend money without contracts. They share secrets without hesitation. They support without boundaries. And then one day they wake up to find their child has exposed, deceived, or abandoned them in ways they never imagined. Ned possible. It is a kind of heartbreak that doesn't fade, it lingers. Unlike disrespect or ingratitude, betrayal carries with it a sense of humiliation. Parents wonder, how could I have trusted so blindly? How could my own child use my love against me? This self-blame adds another layer of pain because the betrayal is not only about what was done, but also about how it makes the parent question their own worth and judgment. The cruelest part of betrayal is that it cannot be undone. Words cannot erase it. Apologies may be spoken, but trust cannot simply be restored by willpower. Trust is built slowly, brick by brick, over years of faithfulness, and betrayal smashes it in a single moment. For many parents, no matter how much they still love their children, they can never again offer the same unguarded trust. The wound remains open even if they try to cover it. This wound is unforgettable because betrayal shakes the very foundation of what a parent believes about their child. It is often unforgiven because once loyalty is broken, even love cannot fully restore what was lost. Betrayal is not just about what a child does, it is about what it destroys, the sacred trust between parent and child. There is a sacred rhythm to life, a circle that begins with parents caring for their children when they are helpless, and then in time, children returning that care when their parents grow weary. It is one of the most beautiful unspoken covenants of humanity. But when that circle is broken, when children turn away instead of turning toward, the wound of neglect in old age is carved deep into a parent's soul. Neglect is not just the absence of care, it is the absence of presence. It is the unanswered phone call, the visit that never comes, the empty chair at holidays, the silence that stretches across weeks, months, even years. It is the feeling of being forgotten while still alive. For a parent, this neglect does not just cause loneliness, it causes a deep questioning of worth. Did my love mean nothing? Did my sacrifices not matter? Have I become invisible? Old age is not weakness, it is a season. It is a time when parents long not for grand gestures, but for companionship, for conversation, for the comfort of knowing that they are still cherished. When children fail to show up during this season, when they are too busy, too distracted, or too indifferent, the pain is indescribable. It is a betrayal of the natural order of love. What makes this wound especially cruel is its contrast. Parents remember the years they spent bending over cribs, rushing to school meetings, cheering on sports games, and sitting by hospital beds. They remember how their children's needs always came first, and then when their own bodies grow frail, when they face illness or loneliness, the silence from their children screams louder than any words ever could. Neglect in old age is a double wound. It not only robs parents of care, but it also robs them of dignity. To be treated as though your season of importance has ended, as though your wisdom no longer matters, is one of the most dehumanizing experiences a parent can endure. And because these are often the final chapters of life, there is little time left to rewrite the story. The neglect becomes the last memory, the final imprint of the parent-child relationship. This wound is unforgettable because it is lived daily through empty rooms, unopened doors, and unspoken words. It is often unforgiven because parents know that presence is not about resources, it is about heart. It doesn't take wealth to visit, it doesn't take brilliance to listen, it only takes love. And when children choose not to give even that, the wound of neglect becomes permanent. To be forgotten in old age by the very ones you remembered every day of their lives is not just painful, it is soul-crushing. It leaves a scar that time cannot erase because the very end of life is colored by the silence of those who should have been closest. Perhaps the deepest wound of all is the wound of conditional love. Parents give love freely, instinctively, without calculation. From the moment they hold a child in their arms, their love is not dependent on behavior, achievement, or perfection. It is unconditional because it flows from a place deeper than reason. That is why when children grow up and return that love only under certain terms, it leaves a scar that never fades. Conditional love can sound like, I'll call you if you give me what I want, or I'll respect you only if you agree with me. It is love that demands a price, affection that becomes a transaction, honor that is only offered when conditions are met. This kind of love diminishes the sacred bond between parent and child and turns it into a negotiation, one where the parent is always left paying more than they receive. The pain of conditional love is not just in what is withheld, it is in what it communicates. It tells a parent, you are not worthy as you are. You must earn my love. For someone who gave everything without hesitation, this is devastating. Parents are left wondering how the love they offered so freely could return to them so filtered, so measured, so cold. What makes conditional love even more piercing is that it often surfaces in moments when parents are most vulnerable. In times of sickness, financial difficulty, or emotional need, some children weaponize their presence. I'll help you if, or I'll be there when. This is not love, it is bargaining. And for parents, it feels like being abandoned, not once, but over and over again, each time their love fails to meet the terms set by their child. The wound of conditional love is unforgettable because it corrupts what should be pure. Parents can endure disrespect, ingratitude, even neglect, but when the love they long for is offered with strings attached, it cuts to the deepest part of their being. This is the place where they hope to find refuge, warmth, and unconditional acceptance. Instead, they find terms, conditions, and limits. And it is often unforgiven because conditional love erases the sacred truth that love is meant to be given, not earned. When children treat love as currency, parents are left not only heartbroken but disillusioned. They may continue to give because that is their nature, but the wound remains, the knowledge that their child's love comes not from the heart, but from calculation. Parents never forget this wound because it rewrites their story. It forces them to question whether the bond they believed in was real. And for many, that is the hardest truth to face, to know that they gave everything freely and unconditionally, yet received love that was measured, conditional, and temporary.